Steve Kim for UCN. We're with Promotor Extraordinaire. Finally meet him. Eddie Hearn. Eddie, first of all, you're a lot taller than I thought. Let's talk about this fight. Kell, Brook, Shawn Porter. If you had your druthers, looking back, I remember this whole process. Did you expect to be coming to the United States for Kell Brook's first title attempt?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we obviously had the whole saga with Devon Alexander, 3 fights there that fell through, twice with an injury to Kell, once with an injury for Devon Alexander. And it's been a tough road for Kell because that was the optimum time for him to face Devon Alexander for the world title. That was a year ago, and now we're here. But I think he's matured. I think, you know, he's a bit of a superstar in the UK, and I think he had a little bit of an easy ride up until then. And I think he realised that everything wasn't just plain sailing, you know, and that injury affected him, and those pullouts affected him, and he lost that chance. I think it's matured him as a person. So we're here. I think it's a tougher fight than Devon Alexander. I think he would have beaten Alexander in style this time last year, but now I think he's going to beat Shawn Porter in style. But one thing's for sure, it's a wonderful fight.
Eddie, there was some controversy over the drug testing or the non-testing. It got delayed. There are a lot of issues there. Are you at a peace of mind that this fight will eventually be or is on a level playing field?
Yeah, listen, there's no suggestion that either fighter are using performance-enhancing drugs. It's just my view on boxing in general. It's not cycling, it's not athletics.
Yeah.
This is a sport where both men are trying to do harm to each other, so it has to be on a level playing field. It's got nothing to do with Shawn Porter. It's to do with all our fighters in fights. This is what we request. The fact is there is random testing. The fact is that I was the one that requested it in the first place, and because the fight was brought forward by 3 weeks, it probably did delay the process. Both fighters were tested around 3 weeks before the fight. Personally, I would have liked maybe 2 weeks before. But I'm happy, you know, it's not ideal, but it's okay. I mean, it's okay, it's acceptable. But the fact is that I don't think, you know, you've seen the likes of other sport where that kind of, you know, performance-enhancing situation is maskable in so many different ways. But if a fighter is aware there's random testing, at least it's lodged in their mind. And that was one of my reasons in requesting it in the first place. You know, Kenny Porter said 4 weeks ago there is no random testing, and then 2 weeks ago he said there is random testing, and I requested it.
Yeah.
Oh well, so you know, but the fact is that we requested it, and it has been done. Would have liked it a week or two earlier, but it was done 3 weeks before the fight, which, you know, is and people who are new to this element or this side of boxing think that random testing is something that is it just happens. It doesn't. You know, we've got a great system in Britain where the British Boxing Board of Control have a random testing system with the doping agency where fighters are just randomly testing at will. Can be in camp, can be out of camp. It's a wonderful system. The problem you've got here is you've got so many different commissions to abide by. So it's going to be difficult, but I think it's integral to the sport. Again, you're not talking about cycling, you're not talking about athletics, you're talking about a tough sport where people are there to do harm to each other. That's the bottom line.
Eddie, do you believe that the promoters, who are ultimately the power brokers in this business, put up the money, stage the events, can really control what fighters are fighting which? Do you think you guys as a whole, and I'm talking everywhere across the board, need to be more proactive in pushing for more stringent testing as it relates to the sport of boxing?
Yes, I do, but I think ultimately it's the commission. I think the commission, everyone's got a duty to protect the interest of the fighters. Certainly the promoters, certainly the managers and advisors, and certainly the commissions. So I think they all have to get together. Like I said, in our world, we've got a fantastic system in place. So in Britain, we're not too bothered. It concerns me when we come to fight in the United States that there isn't enough random testing. You know, we've had, when Tony Bellew boxed Adonis Stevenson, we had to put extra measures in place, which we did, you know, again for testing during camp. You know, when Gavin Rees fought Broner, it was just drug testing on the night. When Darren Barker fought Gill, it was just just testing on the night. It's not good enough. You know, that's not going to beat anybody. Drug testing on the night of the fight. It's just, you know, they're so advanced, these systems that people have got into place, that even if you're doing random testing, someone will avoid it. But it's very difficult. In England, they'll knock on your door and they won't leave your house till they get you to test. And that's where you're going to catch people. That's the only way you're going to catch people, is random testing.
We're here with promoter Eddie Hearn. Eddie, I found it fascinating. I read a quote, and there's some stories out, that you are going to be branching out. You're going to be coming to our side of the pond. You are right now the most influential promoter in the UK and in Europe. This is unprecedented. Frank Warren, during all his success, or anyone else, has never actually gone to another country to plant their flag. Talk about that dynamic, and what exactly is your game plan to coming to America?
It's very simple. It's just another market, and that's how I look at it. It's a huge market. We've done very well very quickly in the UK. We're not taking our foot off the gas in the UK. We've still got a lot of work to do. But I do see this market, I do see other markets around the world as opportunities for us. We're certainly not going to be able to come in and all of a sudden become the #1 promoter in America. And deals and promoters are driven by TV contracts, and it would be difficult for us to move in with an HBO or a Showtime and do a multi-fight deal. But I think people like HBO who have worked with us in the past, who, for instance, were there when Froch boxed Groves at Wembley and rated very, very well, see what we can do. The difference I find between, when we're doing shows in the UK and being in shows in America is the passion and the atmosphere. And, it was refreshing to see Terence Crawford fight Gamboa recently. That felt like a British fight, where there's passion. You're there for your man. When we go to the show on Saturday night, how many people will be supporting Shawn Porter? They're not. They're there for the occasion. That's fine. But for me, I like to bring a little bit of passion. And the reason for me is very plain and simple, is that promoters have got a little bit lazy in America because the key source of revenue...
Casino money. Let's just say it. It's casino money.
Exactly. But the key source of the revenue comes from the broadcaster. Whereas in the UK, it's more like a 50-50 split. So we have to drive hard to sell the tickets. We have to put bums on seats. We have to make it entertaining.
But Eddie, with that said, there is a dynamic in defense of the US TV packages, I like to call them. There's NFL, there's NBA. In the UK, aren't there less entertainment choices as it relates to professional sports?
No, not really. I mean, as a company, Matchroom produce around 13% of Sky Sports' total sports output. You won't know this, but we do 10 different sports as well. So, but ultimately we know how to entertain, and it's all about the look and the feel to grow the sport. And what I mean by that is, if you're a viewer at home and you turn on the channel and you're watching this arena that's half full where you can hear a pin drop, you turn the station over, right? If you're watching this arena, and again, go back to Terence Crawford against Gamboa, perfect example. That's how you sell the product of boxing. You tune in and you go, wow, look at that. They're screaming, they're shouting. This guy's from, Omaha, like there's just never been. And that's what you need more of. That's how you're going to grow the sport. You're not going to grow the sport by dull atmospheres and arenas and a lack of passion from fans. Sport is all about passion, and boxing is the greatest sport of all. But the problem is there seems to be a lack of passion in America. I don't know whether that's, like I said, lackadaisical from promoters, or more importantly, that the fighters haven't been built initially in their hometowns. And again, like if you have a fighter in his hometown of Liverpool, right? You get
from there.
No, but not just that. They travel. Yeah. So like when Andre Ward boxed Carl Froch at Atlantic City, how many people come from Omaha? What, a dozen?
Or Oakland.
Sorry, Oakland. Yeah. But how many? A dozen? I mean, but in the UK you'd get. We had. I mean, when Ricky Hatton boxed Mayweather, he's a one-off, but tens of thousands came. Even Kell Brook will have 300 from Sheffield coming on Saturday. And that's a 12-hour flight. So
Eddie, one final question. We're getting surrounded here. Everyone wants to know, even American fans, what is the immediate future moving forward with Carl Froch?
Well, we'd like the Chavez fight.
Okay, but can Chavez finally make a deal with Bob Arum? Isn't that the big key?
I mean, we agreed terms in principle for the fight. We thought that would be a difficult thing to do, and it wasn't. We weren't greedy, and we put a proposal together which was accepted. We were working towards January the 24th. And then it went flat, and I don't know the reasons why. You may even know more than me, but the bottom line is Carl Froch needs fights. He's just earned money that will put him probably in the top 3 or 4 in leading money earners in the sport, and now he needs challenges, and I feel like coming to Vegas to fight Chavez is something that lights his fire, but it's frustrating.
You said it went flat, so two-part question. Number one, does flat mean that you pulled the plug, and where does that leave maybe a Gennady Golovkin?
We certainly didn't pull the plug. We were advised that it's probably best for us to move on in terms of waiting for the Chavez fight. You can't wait around for a fight like that forever. I feel it's a great fight. It's a great fight for Chavez. It's a great fight for Froch. As far as Golovkin is concerned, that's a fight that there needs to be a lot of money on the table to make, because that's a big, tough fight. And the way I put it is this: are you going to advise your fighter or your client to go into a fight that would probably pay a third of a fight with Julio Cesar Chavez.
With maybe more risk.
Much more risk. So, I think that ultimately, the situation is you're just not going to do it. If HBO came to us and said, listen, Golovkin against Froch is a pay-per-view fight, it could happen. Froch would fight Golovkin, no problem at all.
Right.
But there has to be the reward. And there isn't the reward for fighting Golovkin at this stage compared to a payday of Chavez. And all the messages we're getting from HBO is Froch versus Chavez is pay-per-view, Froch versus Golovkin is not pay-per-view.
Understood. So there it is, Eddie. Thank you for the time. This is Steve Kim for UCN.